Hare Krishna Radharani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indu from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna Indu Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. So glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirti Sundari Dasi.
Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your valuable association. Hare Krishna. We can start. Mataji, shall we start, Mataji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call again. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji to enlightening on the topic Lord Shiva, the Pranam Vaishnava. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us and enlightening on this special topic on the special day. I would like to hand over the call to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. We can't hear you, Mataji.
No, not able to hear Vilasini Popi.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Niharika Mataji. Sorry, was it Radharani Mataji?
Yeah, Mataji, that's okay.
Sorry.
Mataji.
For the
Hare.
introduction, and thanks to all the devotees for your association and the beautiful chanting. So we are and thank you for this very wonderful opportunity, Kirtida Sundari Mataji, to speak about the glories of Lord Shiva, which is a very wonderful topic and also in some ways not much touched upon topic. So I feel this is a great opportunity to share whatever I have heard and learned. And please, of course, bear with my imperfections as we go through this presentation on the glories of the Param Vaishnava, Lord Sri Shiva. So this is our Lord Shiva, who is very, very humble, always very happy, and always in the mood of a Vaishnava. So now, when we think about Lord Shiva, what is the understanding we have about Lord Shiva? Who is actually Lord Shiva? So that's the first question that comes to all of our minds. Some people have this understanding, whoever is from a Vedic tradition, we have different understandings about the position of Lord Shiva. Some people, they think that Lord Shiva is actually the Supreme Lord. I mean, he is the Supreme Lord. That is one idea that people who generally go through different Vedic scriptures get. Some people think that, oh, he's just another demigod, just like Indra or Chandra or Varuna. And there are some others who think that, oh, maybe he's just a Jiva like you and me. And however, not clearly many people understand the exact position of Lord Shiva. So what do the scriptures talk about Lord Shiva? So when we talk about God, all of us understand that logically there can be only one Supreme Lord. So it's not like 3-4 people together can be a Supreme Lord. We hear this concept called as the Hindu Trinity. Okay, 3 people. And when someone is asked, so who is God? Then they say all the 3 of them are God. But logically, just think about it. Can 3 people be God? It's not possible. It is possible. God means he's one, right? So there can be only one God. But then we do understand personalities like Lord Shiva and Brahma and others. So does it mean that these personalities are just some mythological personalities? No, they also exist. But it is very important for us to understand each of these personalities and what they represent and what is their position. So therefore, our acharyas, what they do is, when they come up with different philosophical understandings, like all the great acharyas of different sampradayas, they have come up with different siddhantas. Like you might have heard of philosophical understandings like Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita or Achintya Beda Veda, which is Shakti Parinamavada. So these philosophical theses are brought about by great acharyas after studying various scriptures. And then they give us an understanding of who is God, who am I, what is my relationship with God. And they also, in the process, speak about various personalities that are often misunderstood to be the Supreme Lord. But these personalities are never demeaned by our Acharya. So that should first be understood. So there is a lot of misconception that Vaishnavas treat Shiva as an ordinary demigod, but that is not true. He's not considered as an ordinary demigod. He has a special position, and this is what our acharyas have churned out. We should understand who Lord Shiva is, what his tattva is. Just like how we have Vishnu tattva, Jiva tattva, Shakti tattva, and so on. Similarly, we have a separate category called as Shiva tattva. So let's delve into Shiva tattva and get a proper understanding of who this great personality is. Okay. So we have, this is directly from Srila Prabhupada's books, and I'm reading it out for you. It says, Lord Shiva is neither an ordinary living entity, Jiva, or a typical demigod. Now note here, it says typical demigod, okay? He is in his own category of existence known as Shiva Tattva. He's almost on the level of Vishnu, but because of his interaction with material nature, he is not counted as Vishnu Tattva, the category of Godhead, which means the Supreme Lord. So Shambhu cannot be called a Jiva. He is the Lord of the Jiva, but yet partakes of the nature of a separated portion of Govinda. So this is directly from the Brahma Samhita. And which verse does it refer to? It refers to verse 545 from the Brahma Samhita, which is very, very famous. And this is the verse that all the Vaishnavas quote for the exact understanding of Shiva Tattva. Kshiram Yadadari Vikara Visesha Yoga. Very, very famous verse. And the translation is, just as milk is transformed into curd or yogurt by the action of acids, but yet the effect of curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, which is the milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of work of destruction. So basically what we understand from this verse is that the analogy of milk and yogurt is given. So when milk, which is the original product or original item, comes in contact with some acidic nature item like tamarind or anything that is acidic or a yogurt culture, what happens is that milk transforms into yogurt. Now, when you take out this yogurt may not be the same as milk because its constitution has changed. So you cannot make treat yogurt just like milk. Like maybe from milk you'll be able to make a nice kheer, or you may be able to make badam milk or something like that. I mean, almond milk or whatever. So from milk, you have certain things that you can derive. But from yogurt, you cannot exchange the properties of yogurt with milk. You cannot use the same yogurt to prepare an ingredient from what milk can be prepared with. So therefore, yogurt has transformed. There is a change. But however, it is a change from milk. It is also still a milk product, right? So like that, we should understand Shiva Tattva. Shiva Tattva is somewhat like Vishnu, but it is a transformation of Vishnu. It cannot function as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it is not something that can be discounted and considered. Shiva cannot be considered as a Jiva. So this is how we get the understanding of Shiva Tattva with a very, very beautiful analogy and very relatable analogy. And I think most people, when they hear this example that is given by Brahma Samhita, they can kind of get an understanding of who Lord Shiva is and who Lord Vishnu is. And this has been detailedly researched by our acharyas. It is no figment of speculation or some superficial analysis. The acharyas have really gone through the scriptures to come up with this perfect understanding. And generally, I just want to make this point that there is a lot of blame put on Vaishnavas that Vaishnavas demean Lord Shiva or they put down the position of Lord Shiva. But this is a highly misunderstood concept. The reason is because when you go through the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Puranas and other Vedic canon of scriptures, you can come up with, generally what has happened so far is that different acharyas have basically come up with two different philosophies. One is the impersonal philosophy, which can be easily defeated because the Vaishnavas have better praman to kind of defeat the impersonalist philosophy. And the second set of philosophy is the Vaishnava philosophy, which deals with a personal God. And all of the acharyas have unanimously accepted the Vishnu Tattva as being the supreme. It can be either Narayana or Krishna. So basically, when the acharyas come up with different philosophical agreements after discussing all the scriptures, they have come up only with two philosophies so far. So definitely, just using the Vedic canon, it is very hard to come up with the idea that Lord Shiva is the supreme. Okay, so that understanding should be first ingrained in our minds before we can proceed further. And yes, there are certain philosophies like Shaiva Siddhanta that do come up with a personal concept of Lord Shiva being the supreme. Okay, most of Shaivism is impersonal still to this day, because it is very hard to come up with a personal supreme as Lord Shiva. It's extremely hard using the Vedas. However, there is one group of Shaiva Siddhanta that does talk about Lord Shiva as being the supreme God. And how did they come up with that? They have come up with that using some Agama Shastras, which may not be 100% Vedic. Okay, they use some of the Vedas, they use a lot of Agamas to establish that fact. And this has been defeated by various acharyas. So therefore, just using our Vedic tradition, we can come up with two philosophies. One is the impersonal philosophy that talks about an impersonal Brahman, and that is also easily defeated by our Vaishnava acharyas. And the other is a personal God, and it is very clearly established as Vishnu Tattva being the supreme. Okay, so this is what our acharyas have done so far in their research work, and based on the research work that they have done, we are proceeding further. So we are not doing this research work, it's all given to us. So therefore we are proceeding from there. And within our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, we have wonderful acharyas who have done further research, and they quote, like Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Thakur and others, and Srila Prabhupada, who quote the exact understanding of Lord Shiva. And therefore we saw this verse from Brahma Samhita, which is often quoted to really understand who Lord Shiva is. Okay, here you see in the purport of Brahma Samhita, it's very, very clear. It says, Lord Shiva, it's the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is very, very clear. It says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva is in one sense the supreme personality of Godhead, but in another sense, he is not, just as curd is milk, although we have to distinguish between the two. This is from a purport in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.4.16. Okay. So now we understand the existence of Lord Shiva, who really he is. But we have to understand this complex nature of Shiva Tattva. Who Shiva is and what are his various existences in various levels. So we have understood so far, okay, Shiva is very similar to Vishnu, yet he's not Vishnu. That is what we have gotten so far. But now we have to classify it and see his various functions and understand his various expansions at various levels. Okay, so the very first expansion, the very first existence of Lord Shiva is called as Sadashiva. Now, this Sadashiva is actually another form of Vishnu.
Mataji, we can't hear you, Mataji.
Yeah, you can see me and hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Now we can.
Okay, can you see the presentation also?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So now, we are trying to understand the complex Shiva Tattva and the existence of Lord Shiva at various levels, right? So the first one is Sadashiva, and he exists in Vaikunta. Okay, he exists in the northeast corner. It says NE corner of Vaikunta, which is nothing but the northeast corner of the spiritual world. Now, this Shiva is directly an expansion of the Lord himself. Okay, he has not yet transformed into yogurt. He's still in that milk state. So this is our Sadashiva, the origin of all the other Shivas. So where does he exist? He exists in the northeast corner of Vaikunta. From him, we will see more about him. From him comes Shambhu. Shambhu is actually the one who is a dim halo of the glance of Mahavishnu. Now, who is Mahavishnu? Mahavishnu is the one who actually kickstarts creation, meaning his glance transforms into a dim halo, and that dim halo, which is called as Shambhu, actually touches material nature, okay, Prakriti, and then you have the material universes emanating from there. So therefore, Shambhu is the one who touches Maya. Okay, so this Shambhu is a dim halo of the glance of Mahavishnu that contacts Maya for creation. And we will understand more about Shambhu in the forthcoming slides. From Shambhu, okay, who's now touched Maya, each of the material universes, there are so many Brahmandas, right? In each of the material universe, you have at least 11 Rudras. In our material universe, for sure, we know we have 11 Rudras within this universe. Okay, so first we have Sadashiva, then we have Shambhu, and then we have the 11 Rudras within each universe. Okay, not only does Shiva exist at 3 different levels, Shiva also exists further in various parts of the universes. Like as you read the Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, you will find that Lord Shiva takes residences in various places, like for example, Kailash of this material world, and then you will find him residing in a planet called as Vitala, which is in the lower planetary systems. So just like how Lord Vishnu can reside in various places, like for example, we know in the Sutala planetary system, Vamanadev resides as the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj. So like that, the Supreme Lord also has residences in various places. Similarly, we have Lord Shiva also taking residences in various places. But all of these forms of Shiva, they originate from that original Sadashiva, who is spiritual, who is an expansion of the Lord. Okay. So now we'll look into each of these different aspects of Lord Shiva further. Now, first, we spoke about Sadashiva, right? Northeast corner of the spiritual world. So this is a section from the very famous and celebrated Goloka chart. Okay, this is a picture from there. And there in the northeast corner, you see a particular planet or a section called as Ishana. If you read this, it's the northeast corner. It's called as the Ishana. In this Ishana, actually, from this point onwards, this is a bright planet. And from here, from this point onwards, the material universes actually emanate. So this is the spiritual world, Vaikunta. And from Vaikunta, from the northeast corner, emanates you have the Karana ocean, or the ocean where Mahavishnu lies down and he begins creation. And from there on, from the northeast corner, actually, the material universes emanate. Like you can imagine, like something is shooting out from one corner. So like that, the material universes, they are coming out from this region. See, if you look at this region, this Ishana, this place here, it is more like a borderline between the spiritual world and it eventually the material world. So from here, this Ishana onwards, you will have the Viraja river, where Mahavishnu lies down and he's going to glance at Maya, then material universe is going to get agitated, and then you'll have creation. So this is how exactly Ishana is located, and this Ishana is identified with Sadashiva Loka. Now, Sadashiva Loka, again, if you read the scriptures and if you get a complete understanding of the Vedic cosmology, you will understand that Sadashiva Loka has 2 sections. One is the darker section and the other is the brighter section. The brighter section is called as the Sadashiva Loka, which is actually this portion, which is all lit up. And you also have a lower half, which is darker. and a lot of impersonalists actually attain that region. It is still considered to be beyond the material universe. Okay, so this is a transition point from the spiritual to the material, and that is where Lord Shiva takes his position. So a part of it extends into Vaikuntha. So this is the understanding. And what is our praman for that? Yes, we find praman in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where this is discussed, the position of Lord Shiva, where he resides, who Sadashiva is, that is discussed. And also the Vayu Purana directly gives this. It says, in the Vayu Purana, there is a description of Sadashiva and one of the Vaikuntha planets. That Sadashiva is a direct expansion of Lord Krishna's form for pastimes. And for those who have attended the Brihad Bhagavatamrita series, you definitely find Gopakumar going through all these regions. So you would have a clearer idea of how this actually happens and where Sadashiva resides. Okay, so now we spoke about Sadashiva, who's actually an expansion of the Lord present in the spiritual world, and then his residence kind of extends further, and then you have from him coming, he transforms into the next level, which is called as Shambhu. So now let's go down further. This is what I was explaining 2 minutes back, Sadashiva Loka. So what happens is from the northeast corner of the spiritual world, just rotate your focus to this point. Okay, so the same place expands as Sadashiva Loka, and the lower region is darker. It is called as the Mahakaladam. Now what's happening from here? Okay, how does Shiva come further from there? You have Mahavishnu here, and he's glancing at actually Maya, but there is a via medium. You have Rama Devi, who is his consort, whom he directly consorts with. He doesn't directly touch Maya. Mahavishnu comes down, he sleeps in this Viraja river, he lies down in this Viraja river, and he looks at his consort Rama Devi. So you see, he's consorting with his consort here. And this glance, it has a dim halo. The glance that is coming from Mahavishnu, there is a halo around it. And that halo is actually a representation of Shambhu. You see, Shambhu is here riding on the bull. So this Shambhu then touches Maya. So when Shambhu actually touches Maya, then you have the material universe or Mahatattva. Okay, so this is how the next level of Sadashiva is called as Shambhu. So again, Brahma Samhita is our reference, and Brahma Samhita says, Shambhu, in pursuance of the will of Govinda, works in union with his consort Durga Devi by his own time energy. Shambhu cannot be called a Jiva. He is the Lord of Jiva, but yet partakes of the nature of a separated portion of Govinda. So you see now when Shambhu touches Maya, there is some sort of a transformation that is happening because he's touching Maya. So at this point, the transformation begins. When the touch happens, that is when the transformation of milk to yogurt happens. Okay, so about in the Vaikuntha, he's still completely spiritual, considered 100% spiritual. And then when the contact happens, there is a transformation. After Shambhu, what happens? The next level is within each material universe. What is his position? So within each material universe, he works as a demigod. So this is where when you see Vaishnavas say, oh, Shiva is a demigod, this is what they mean. Within each and every material universe, the function of Lord Shiva is that of a demigod. And how do we understand that? We understand that directly from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam talks about creation within each and every universe. Every universe has 14 planetary systems, and you have this Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu who lies down in the Garbhodaka ocean within each universe, and then from his navel sprouts a lotus, and who sits on that lotus? It is Brahma who sits on that lotus. So within every universe that we have, the first created living entity, Jiva, the topmost Jiva is Brahma. Now we have to be very clear, Brahma doesn't have a tattva of his own. He's not the Supreme Lord. He's not under Shiva tattva, but he's a Jiva like you, me, and someone else in our home. Okay, so he's a Jiva, but he's not such a fallen Jiva. He's the best of all the Jivas. So he definitely has a very important position. And he's so good that he is the direct son of the Lord. So definitely, though he's a Jiva, still no comparison to us. Okay. So he is the direct son of the Lord. From the Lord's navel sprouts a lotus, and from there you have Brahma. So now this Brahma becomes the engineer of this universe, and he has to further engage in creation, right? So at that time, what happened? This is described in the Bhagavatam, and we see the third canto, 12th chapter, describing Brahma's secondary creation. This is what is being described here. Now, when Brahma desired to have sons and then populate the universe, we know that he did create the four Kumaras. You see the picture of the four Kumaras here. So he did first start off with creation of the four Kumaras. However, the Kumaras were not very interested in populating the universe, and they were only focused in spiritual advancement. So, therefore, they did not take up the task that was assigned by their father. When this happened, Brahma was very, very angry because he didn't have suitable sons to populate the universe who would engage in further help. So, therefore, he was extremely angry. And from the middle of his eyebrows, because of the anger, there was a boy who just emanated. And that little boy here, you see a little bluish boy that is coming out here, that is actually Rudra. So he is an expansion of Shambhu that has come inside this universe. So you have the verse here directly quoted. Thereafter, Brahma said, after he saw this Shambhu emanating from the middle of his forehead, he said, O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all the people because you have so anxiously cried. What happened was when Shambhu emanated from the middle of the forehead of Brahma, he started crying very anxiously, and he asked his father, what is my name and where is my residence? Who am I? Why am I being created? So give me a name and give me some residences. So when he was anxiously crying like that, you see this verse, so dvega iva balakaha tatastvam abididash sorry abhidhashayanti nama rupa iti praja. What happened? Yat arodita surasreshta. So he cried, rodita, arodita surasreshta. That means he was crying because he was crying anxiously. Rudra means one who cried anxiously. That's what it means. So therefore he received the name Rudra. Because you have cried anxiously, you received the name Rudra. So when Rudra asked, when this little baby that came out asked his father, give me a name and a place to stay, he said, okay, you're crying anxiously, you get the name Rudra. Okay? Rudra means Arodita. It comes from this. And he was very anxious when he was crying, therefore he is Rudra. And after that, Brahma told him, my dear boy, I've already selected the following places for your residence. You will be in the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, sun, the moon, and austerity. My dear boy Rudra, you have 11 other names. Okay, what are the 11 names of Rudra? It is Manu, Mahinasha, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadwaja, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadeva, and Dritavrata. O Rudra, you also have 11 wives called as the Rudranis, and they are as follows: Dhi, Dhriti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Swadha, and Diksha. So this Rudra that came from the forehead of Brahma, he further expands into 11 forms. These are called as the Ekadasha Rudras. So every time you hear from scripture, you will hear these verses in Upanishads that say Narayana Brahma Jayate, and then you have Ekadasha Rudras. So it says that you have Ekadasha Rudras, means you have 11 Rudras. So this one Brahma then further expands into 11 forms, and these are the 11 forms. The names are quoted here in verse number 12 of this chapter, 3:12:12. And then he also takes 11 different wives, and the names of the wives are quoted here. So they all take residence within this universe. So now we have come from Sadashiva, we saw Shambhu. After the contact of Shambhu with Maya, he transformed. He's no more Vishnu Tattva. Now, within the universe, he acts in the capacity of a demigod, and he's known as Rudra. Okay, so far we have kind of delineated how Shiva is gradually coming to the universe. And if you want one to go verse to understand the complete Shiva Tattva, you want every reference, you want to understand this, right? Really put it down in one verse and purport, then this is your to-go verse about Shiva Tattva. This is directly from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 6.79, and this talks about who Rudra is, who Sadashiva is, and who our Shambhu is. So this gives the exact order, and this is our reference verse. So if you want to note it down, you can note it down and read through it, because it is a wealth of information. I mean, you will get, if you anything you want to know about Lord Shiva is present in this one verse. Ananta Brahmande Rudra Sadashiva Era Amsha Gunavatarateno Sarvadeva Avatamsha. This is translation. Rudra, who's an expansion of Sadashiva and who appears in unlimited universes, is also a Gunavatara, qualitative incarnation, and is the ornament of all the demigods in the endless universes. And here you have the 11 expansions of Rudra. They have a slightly different name, but that's okay, because different scriptures do give different names for the 11 Rudras. And then the description on the look of these Rudras is given. They have 5 faces, three eyes, 10 arms, and so on. And Rudra is compared to Brahma. And sometimes certain Rudras can be empowered jivas as well. This is also confirmed by the research that is done by our acharyas and the different seminars that they have given. Sometimes certain of the 11 Rudras can be empowered jivas. So therefore, within the universe, ultimately, you see that Rudra acts in the capacity of a demigod. So when Vaishnava acharyas say, oh, he's a demigod, they don't mean to demean the position of Shiva. They understand the complete tattva of Lord Shiva and talk about how he acts in different places or different positions that he has taken. Okay, you can read this entire thing. I don't want to continue reading it because we'll be spending a lot of time reading, but I definitely recommend 679. Okay, so now let's move on. Okay. Now we have seen the tattva of Lord Shiva. Now we should understand who this personality is and what are his qualities. He's such a great personality, and he's got most wonderful qualities. So some of the qualities are boundless compassion, simple-hearted, very nicely imbued with devotion. His heart is imbued with devotion, easily pleased, but most pleased with devotees of the Lord, anger aimed at reformation. You must have all heard Lord Shiva gets angry very easily. He gets pleased very easily, right? But however, when he gets pleased very easily also, yes, he gets pleased with demons very easily, but he's the most pleased with devotees. He gives the greatest benedictions to devotees. And yes, he gets angry. Many times we see Lord Shiva getting very angry and dancing in anger and all that, but his anger is aimed at the reformation of those who are doing mistakes. So this is our Lord Shiva, and we'll look into each of these qualities of Lord Shiva with relevant pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a storehouse of glorification of different Vaishnavas, and here we have the topmost Vaishnava, Lord Shiva. So therefore, there is plenty of glorification of the nature of Lord Shiva in these pastimes. So the first pastime we would be seeing is Lord Shiva drinking poison. So this is Lord Shiva, and he's collecting the poison and he's drinking it from the ocean, churning of the ocean of milk. So what was the story? We all know that the demigods and the demons, they declared a truce because they wanted to churn the ocean of milk to obtain nectar. The initial understanding that the demigods and the demons had was they would churn the ocean of milk, they would collect the nectar and equally distribute it among themselves. However, Lord Vishnu had different plans, and he did support the demigods, and he gave some very interesting inputs to the demigods so that the demigods could kind of trick the demons and then take the nectar for themselves. And this was the higher plan, because Lord Vishnu very well knew that if the demons acquired the nectar, they would be a bigger disaster. So therefore, the pastime of churning of the milk ocean began. The demigods and the demons, they took their positions and they started to churn the ocean of milk. Initially, what happened was Lord Ajita. He's an incarnation of the Lord that appeared for this pastime. What he did was he first went and took the side of the mouth of Vasuki. So they had this beautiful snake called as Vasuki as the churning rope. So what he did was he went and held on to the mouth of Vasuki. And when he did that, the rest of the demigods, they followed him and they also went and held on to the mouth, and they asked the demons to hold on to the tail. When the demons were asked to hold on to the tail, the demons, they rejected the offer. They said, no, we are not doing this. This is low quality job. I don't want to hold on to the tail. We want the mouth because the mouth is more auspicious. Thinking like that, they wanted to switch. And Lord Vishnu, Lord Ajita encouraged them. And the demigods, they went on to the tail side and they held on to the tail. So the demons, they held on to the mouth side and they started churning the ocean of milk. And of course, Vasuki, being a snake, was emitting poison and they were getting more and more tired. And there are various smaller pastimes within this churning of the milk ocean, like the Supreme Lord took the form of Kurma, or again, even Kurma is called as Ajita actually. So he took the form of Kurma and he held Mandara mountain on his back, and he himself sat on the mountain. You see this picture, actually. The Supreme Lord taking several arms, he sits on top of the Mandara mountain. He also churns on the side of the demigods. So, like this, he takes various forms and he's present in different places. He also expands himself and enters everyone who are participating there to give them encouragement and strength. So, like that, the Supreme Lord, he himself enacted this churning of the milk ocean pastime. And as they began to churn the ocean, all the different living entities within the ocean were disturbed and they started coming up on the surface. And finally, from within the ocean came the Hala Hala poison, or it is called as the Kalakuta poison. So, when this Kalakuta poison that you see in this picture, it's black in color, when it started overflowing and when it came out, it was affecting everybody who was present there. All the universes, the three universes, were affected by the poisonous vapors that were coming from Kalakuta. So at that time, the demigods, they were asking Vishnu what could be done. And then Vishnu suggests that you should actually approach Lord Shiva. So at this point, one may ask, okay, you say that Vishnu is the supreme Lord, so why couldn't he have handled the situation? The reason given by acharyas, like for example, in the purport, you would read a quote from Sripad Madhvacharya that states that Lord Vishnu wanted to show the greatness of Lord Shiva and give him all the credit, and therefore he encouraged the demigods to go and approach Lord Shiva to actually help them with the situation. So the demigods, they approach Lord Shiva, who was in Kailash at that time, and they go and ask him to help them with the situation. And then Lord Shiva has a plan in his mind. The plan that he has in his mind is that he would, there's so much poison, so he thought he would shrink that poison so much so that it would just fit within his palm. You see the picture here where he's shrinking all the poison so that it just fits into his palm, and he decided to drink it. Okay, this is the compassionate nature of Lord Shiva. But before he did that, he did ask permission from his wife Bhavani. So, like any grihastha would always ask the permission of his wife before he could take decisions. Lord Shiva, he did ask Bhavani, and this is the beautiful verse that shows the greatness of Lord Shiva and his compassionate nature. He said, my dear gentle wife Bhavani, when one performs benevolent activities for others, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is very pleased. And when the Lord is pleased, I am also pleased, along with all other living creatures. Therefore, let me drink this poison, for all the living entities may thus become happy because of me. So just look at the compassion that he has. So he says, I want to do it for the benefit of all living entities. And because Lord Hari will be pleased with this action, I want to perform it. Thereafter, Lord Shiva, who's dedicated to the auspicious, benevolent work of humanity, compassionately took the whole quantity of poison in his palm and drank it. So, and there is another interesting verse that he speaks, which just reflects his character. He said, "It is said that great personalities almost accept voluntary suffering." He's telling his wife Bhavani that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead who's present in everyone's heart. So so much compassion. I mean, who can have this compassion? He wants to, seeing the suffering of other living entities, he wants to put himself into voluntary suffering. That is what he's telling Bhavani. And he goes forward and he decides to drink the poison. And when he drinks the poison, as a mark, there is a blue line on his neck, and he's celebrated as Nilakanta, the one who has a blue mark on his throat. So this is the compassion that Lord Shiva shows during the churning of the milk ocean. Now the next one, the next pastime when he showed compassion for all living entities is when he decided to hold the flow of the Ganges on his hair. Okay, so we know the story that is described in the ninth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the sons of Sagara were actually burnt because of their own offenses to Kapila. Because of the offense that they made, fire emanated from their own bodies and they were burned down, and they all died there. And the descendants of Sagara, further descendants, they wanted to deliver their forefathers who were burned down. So therefore, to deliver their forefathers, they were recommended to bring down the Ganges. So generation after generation, the sons of the grandsons of Sagara and other descendants, they were trying very hard to perform austerities to request the Ganges to actually descend. But they were failing. And finally, it was Bhagirath, who was one of the kings, who performed very severe austerities, and he pleased Mother Ganges. And Mother Ganges told Bhagirath, "Okay, I'm ready to come to deliver your forefathers and flow down on earth. However, the force of my waters, they are so heavy that the water might just pierce through the coverings of earth and then go down to the lower planetary systems. So to bear the force of my waters and to prevent it from piercing through the earth, I need a suitable male to hold the waters so that it can be evenly distributed, or rather, the force can be reduced." So that is when she suggests that, no, Bhagirath suggests that actually I will ask Lord Shiva, because he is the suitable personality who will be ready to help, and he's extremely powerful and he should be able to do this favor. So King Bhagirath, he approaches Lord Shiva and he makes this heavy request. It's not an easy request. One has to be very compassionate and put oneself in trouble to reduce the trouble of others. So who has this quality? Who has this boundless compassion? It is definitely Lord Shiva. So therefore, Bhagirath, he approaches Lord Shiva and he requests him to sustain the forceful waves of the Ganges so that everyone on earth can be benefited. And because the Ganges is there, so many people's sins are being washed out. And why did Lord Shiva accept this offer immediately? Of course, it has bathed the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So he was more than willing to hold it on his head. And he considered it as a great opportunity. And when Bhagirath asked him, giving this proposal, Lord Shiva said, "Let it be so." Then, with great attention, he sustained the Ganges on his head, for the water of the Ganges is purifying, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. So it's a very beautiful, compassionate nature of Lord Shiva that is being discussed in these two pastimes. Okay, so that was one quality. And then we proceed further to see other qualities of the Lord. So what is this other quality of the Lord? It is his simple-hearted nature. Quality of Lord Shiva. It is a simple-hearted nature that is imbued with devotion. So Lord Shiva is very simple-hearted. And this one pastime speaks so much about Lord Shiva, so much that everybody would respect him so much. I mean, he's got such beautiful qualities. Lord Shiva is so celebrated for his wonderful nature. So here, this is the pastime that is described in the 8th canto that happened after the churning of the milk ocean. So the milk ocean was churned, Shiva drank the poison, and then the nectar was produced, and then Mohini Murti appeared there in the arena in the midst of the demigods and the demons. And what she did was she tricked the demons and she gave the nectar to the demigods. This pastime was done, and at that time, when Mohini Murti actually appeared on the scene, Lord Shiva was not there. He drank the poison and he went away. So he didn't witness this Mohini Murti pastime. But then, when he heard from the demigods that actually Mohini Murti appeared, he was extremely happy and he wanted to go and pay a visit to the Supreme Lord. And he went and asked the Lord that I heard that you took a special incarnation to bewilder the demons. I have seen so many of your transcendental incarnations, but it looks like I have missed this one. So I want to see your form as a woman. So he goes and he tells this to Lord Vishnu. And then Vishnu, Bhagavatam described that he smiled gravely. Why did he smile gravely? What was going on in his mind? So Lord Vishnu was thinking, now here comes Lord Shiva, and Shiva wants to see the beautiful form of Mohini. He was thinking, I took that specific form just to bewilder the demons. That was the purpose of taking that form. And when I took the form of Mohini Murti, it was the demons who got bewildered, not even the demigods. Even the demigods didn't get bewildered. It was to, divert the attention of the demons. And the demons who are lusty in nature got bewildered. Even the demigods who are generally sattvic in nature, even they didn't get bewildered by this. What to talk of Lord Shiva? If I show this form, is Lord Shiva even going to be affected by it? That is the first thing he was thinking. The second thought that came to his mind is this is Lord Shiva. He is the husband of Maya Devi, who is actually Maya personified. So when he's the lord of her, so how is he going to be affected by her? Affected by her, ways of bewildering people. So considering these 2 points, he thought, what should I do? What form should I take? So, so then what Vishnu did was he took a very, very special form that was catered only for the sake of Lord Shiva. And these verses you will see from Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Lord Shambhu, Shiva, was not to be captivated by the external potency of Vishnu. It is not possible. Why it's not possible? We have seen 2 reasons why it's not possible. Therefore, Lord Vishnu decided to exhibit his internal potency. The form that was shown to Shiva was actually created from his internal potency. He exhibited his internal potency to act the way that his external potency acts to captivate ordinary living entities. So he used a special form with the help of his internal potency, but the way it acts like his external potency that captivates living entities. And Lord Vishnu can captivate anyone, even such a strong personality as Lord Shambhu. This is Lord Shiva, who was not affected by Manmatha when he was shooting arrows, right? He was burnt into ashes by the glance of Lord Shiva. So he's a very austere person. How can you captivate him? But one person can do it. That is Lord Vishnu. So he created a special form. And he took the form of this beautiful woman, Mohini, really beautiful painting. I thought the woman looks really beautiful, and Lord Shiva looks even more beautiful. Both of them look good. So anyway, you have this lovely painting. This was Mohini Murti who took this form. And Lord Shiva, he was standing with Mother Parvati and his associates. And suddenly, while Vishnu was conversing with him, he suddenly vanished. After he vanished, Lord Shiva saw the vision of a beautiful woman roaming around in the forest. And when Lord Shiva saw this beautiful woman, he started chasing after her because she was so captivating. He started chasing after her, and that woman was running everywhere. She was, of course, Mohini, an incarnation of the Lord. So she was running everywhere amidst the forests and gardens and so many other places. And Lord Shiva, leaving his wife Parvati right there, who's a personification of beauty, he was chasing after Mohini Murti. And then Mohini was very intelligent. What she did is she took a very special path through where the sages were actually meditating. These sages were great followers of Lord Shiva. They were great ascetics, they were followers of Lord Shiva, and they were sitting and meditating based on the instructions that they had heard from Lord Shiva. And Mohini made a special path so that these people could actually see Lord Shiva chasing her. And these people who were meditating, they were kind of shocked and surprised to see their master chasing after a woman. And then why he did that? He did that because he wanted to instruct the sages that never feel too confident that you're very renounced or you're very austere or you are a great sage, because anyone can get affected, anyone's senses can get affected. So that is the lesson that was being taught to these sages who were meditating. But then Lord Shiva was chasing Mohini. He didn't see anything other than Mohini Murti. And then finally he tried to catch hold of her, and the vital fluid from his body got discharged. So when the vital fluid got discharged, it is described in Shastra that different mines of gold and silver were created from that vital fluid that had come out. And then finally, Lord Shiva came to his senses and he could understand that this was the work of Vishnu's Maya. And then he started smiling. What was his reaction? If someone was put through all this torture by the Lord, what would be their reaction? They would be so upset with the Lord. They would feel so ashamed of themselves, and they would think, I just asked for something really sweet, and is this what I get? This is how people would react, right, when they are put through the situation. Now, to imagine Lord Shiva was taken in a special route where his followers were meditating. So, it would be such a great insult. They would think it's an insult. But look at the reaction of Lord Shiva. This shows who he is, what his Vaishnava qualities are. Lord Shiva was not at all surprised by the wonderful way Vishnu had acted upon him. Seeing Lord Shiva unagitated and unashamed, it is very difficult to be unagitated and unashamed when you're put through this. But Lord Shiva was unagitated and unashamed. Lord Vishnu Madhusudana was very pleased. Thus, he resumed his original form and spoke as follows. Although Lord Shiva was aghast at the potency of Lord Vishnu, he did not feel ashamed. Rather, how did he feel? He felt so proud that he was defeated by Lord Vishnu. Now, this is real character, to be defeated by the Lord. This is the position of a devotee. It is described in Bhagavatam. This is the position of a devotee. A devotee should not be agitated under any circumstance, even the worst of the reversals. Actually, devotees are put through the worst of the reversals. Even ordinary people wouldn't be undergoing all this. Devotees are put through the worst of reversals. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 6:22, Yasmin sthito na dukkena gunanapi vichalayati, because of his full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, here is where faith comes into picture. Because of his full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee is never agitated, even in the greatest of trials. This pridelessness is possible only for first class devotees, of whom Shambhu is one. He's the topmost Vaishnava. This is the quality of a first class devotee, pridelessness to the core, simple heartedness, pridelessness, and complete faith imbued with devotion. This is Lord Shiva and the pastime of Mohini Murti. I found this pastime very touching, the way it is described in the Bhagavatam. Nobody can be like Lord Shiva. He is the topmost Vaishnava, hands down. So that is one quality. The next quality is easily pleased, but most pleased with devotees of the Lord. I'm just going to look at the time. Okay, we have 10 more minutes, but I will go a little over time today. Okay. This is a beautiful quality, and oftentimes people have heard about Lord Shiva being Ashutosha. Ashutosh means one who's easily pleased. So Lord Shiva gives benedictions to demons very easily. We have heard this again and again. We know the story of Ravana. We know the story of so many other demons who just go, they perform austerities, they please Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva gives them boons, and then there is a problem, right? So he's easily pleased. Materialists generally worship Lord Shiva so that they can get their desires fulfilled. Generally, materialists wouldn't go to Vishnu because it's very difficult to please Vishnu. He's not going to give you boons easily. But Shiva does because he's easily pleased. That is his nature. But having said that, whom is he really pleased with and whom is he really favoring? Lord Shiva may be pleased and he might be giving material boons, but whom does he want to give the highest boon, the boon of devotion? Whom does he give? He gives it to the devotees of the Lord. So he gets very easily pleased by the devotees of the Lord. These demons, they have to perform great austerities to attract the attention of Lord Shiva. But devotees, even without doing anything, Lord Shiva is coming to give them benedictions. And where is the proof? The proof is again in the Bhagavatam in the 4th canto, the story of the Prachetas. So you know the story of the Prachetas from the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam. The Prachetas were the 10 sons of Prachina Barhishat, who was a king. And these Prachetas, they were recommended to perform austerities to please the Supreme Lord by their father. So they went ahead and they performed austerities for 10,000 years or so. And while they were going like this, performing austerities, suddenly they came across a huge lake that looked like an ocean. This is how Bhagavatam describes. And then from that lake appeared a golden hued person with 3 eyes, and that was Lord Shiva. Suddenly he appeared from there holding a trident. Very beautiful picture of Lord Shiva appearing from the waters. And he went and he began to speak to the Prachetas. He wanted to give them a benediction. What did he wanted to give the Prachetas? He was so pleased with the Prachetas because they were performing devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So he wanted to give them the Rudra Gita. These are a set of prayers glorifying the Supreme Lord. And it is recorded in the Bhagavatam as Rudra Gita, extremely lovely prayers. And he wanted to give the secret prayers to these Prachetas. So he came out and he began to speak to the Prachetas. And he said, what did he tell the Prachetas? He said, a person who surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the controller of everything, material nature as well as the living entity, is actually very dear to me. So the reason why he appeared in front of the Prachetas is because they were surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who's the controller of everything. Because they were surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these Prachetas became very dear to Lord Shiva. So much dear that Lord Shiva wanted to give them the topmost secret of these beautiful prayers. So it's Lord Shiva naturally becomes attracted to devotees. And there is a beautiful verse from the Bhagavatam, this is 4:24:30, on the same lines, where Lord Shiva tells the Prachetas, you are all devotees of the Lord, and as such, I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. I know this way that the devotees also respect me, and I am dear to them. Trying to move. Okay. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. So he tells that devotees respect me and I am dear to them. No one can be as dear to the devotees as I am, and he worships devotees as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So this is the reciprocal behavior that Lord Shiva has towards devotees. He respects devotees and devotees respect Lord Shiva. Devotees consider Lord Shiva as very, very special, and they are very dear to, they consider Shiva to be very dear to them, and they also respect Shiva. So this is a reciprocal relationship between devotees of the Lord and Lord Shiva. There is a lot of mutual respect. And this purport is extremely beautiful. I would take a minute to read this purport because it gives us more insights into the actual nature of Lord Shiva. It is said, Vaishnavanam yata Shambhuhu. Lord Shiva is the best of all devotees. Therefore, all devotees of Krishna are also devotees of Lord Shiva. This should be clearly understood. All devotees of Krishna are also naturally devotees of Lord Shiva. In Vrindavan, there is a Lord Shiva's temple called as Gopeshwara. The gopis used to worship not only Lord Shiva, but Katyayani or Durga as well. But their aim was to attain the favor of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna does not disrespect Lord Shiva, but worships Lord Shiva as the most exalted devotee of Krishna. Consequently, whenever a devotee worships Lord Shiva, he prays to Lord Shiva to achieve the favor of Krishna, and he does not request material profit. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that generally people worship demigods for some material profit. Driven by material lust, they worship demigods. But a devotee never does so, for he is driven. He's never driven by material lust. That is the difference between a devotee's respect for Lord Shiva and an asura's respect for him. The asura worships Lord Shiva, takes some benediction from him, misuses the benediction, and ultimately is killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who awards him liberation. Because Lord Shiva is a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he loves all the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Lord Shiva told the Prachetas that because they were devotees of the Lord, he loved them very much. Lord Shiva was not kind and merciful only to the Prachetas. Anyone who is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very dear to Lord Shiva. Not only are the devotees dear to Lord Shiva, but he respects them as much as he respects the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, devotees of the Supreme Lord also worship Lord Shiva as the most dear devotee of Lord Krishna. They do not worship him as a separate personality of Godhead. It is stated in the list of Nama Parads that it is an offense to think that the chanting of the name of Hari and the chanting of Hara or Shiva is the same. The devotees must always know that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Lord Shiva is his devotee. A devotee should be offered the respect on the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and sometimes even more respect. Indeed, Lord Rama, the personality of Godhead himself, sometimes worshipped Lord Shiva. If a devotee is worshipped by the Lord, why should a devotee not be worshipped by other devotees on the same level with the Lord? This is the conclusion. From this verse, it appears that Lord Shiva blesses the asuras simply for the sake of formality. Actually, he loves the one who is devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the nature of Lord Shiva. He loves the devotees much more than anyone else. And there is a lot of mutual respect between devotees and Lord Shiva. It's again another purport that should be marked and read to really understand who Lord Shiva is and what his character is. So this is 4:24:30. Please mark this and try to read it at your convenience, because it will give you a lot of inputs about how he becomes extremely favorable to devotees. Okay, this is the picture of Gopeshwar Mahadev. Very cute picture. You have this little tiny girl. Is actually Shiva. He has a little crescent moon. He's dressed as a gopi. So when we saw in this verse about the previous verse about Gopeshwar Mahadev, in Vrindavan there's Lord Shiva temple called as Gopeshwara. This is our Shiva, the little girl there. And he wanted to enter the Rasa Leela, and then the gopis catch him. And they find out this is actually Lord Shiva with 3 eyes. It's a very cute picture. And there is a temple of Gopeshwar Mahadev that is highly revered in Vrindavan. He stands there as the Kshetrapala, guarding that Rasalila Sthali that is there in Vrindavan. Okay, so the next one is quality is anger. Yes, we spoke about Lord Shiva getting really angry, but then his anger is aimed at reformation. So it's again a very beautiful quality of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he's extremely tolerant, very tolerant. We saw how he was so tolerant when Mohini Murti appeared in front of him. So even when someone is disrespecting Lord Shiva remains very tolerant. And that pastime is seen again in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the pastime of Daksha Prajapati insulting Lord Shiva. So very beautiful pictures. First you have the picture of Daksha performing a yajna, and all the demigods in the universe, they all had a meeting where they were performing sacrifices, and there in that meeting, in that arena, entered Daksha. You see Daksha's picture here. So he was very resplendent. When Daksha entered the arena of this great sacrifice that was performed by the different leaders of the universe, the entire assembly was illuminated. So when Daksha, who's a great chief, entered, everyone stood up to respect Daksha. But two people were sitting. Who were the two people? One is Lord Brahma. You see Lord Brahma in the picture here with four heads. He was sitting, and the other person was Lord Shiva, who was sitting. Actually, why was Lord Shiva sitting? You see, his eyes are closed in meditation. He was meditating on the Supreme Lord. So it's a very beautiful picture of Shiva sitting very gravely, and he's thinking about something. And he was meditating on the Super Soul at that point in time when Daksha entered. Now, Brahma, being the father of Daksha, did not have to get up to show him respect. But however, Lord Shiva, according to Daksha, was expected to get up because Daksha had given his daughter Dakshayani or Sati in marriage to Lord Shiva. So therefore, Daksha expected respect from his son-in-law. But however, since Lord Shiva was in trance thinking about the Supreme Lord, he did not get up. Because of this, um, Daksha got very, very angry and he started speaking insulting words towards the Lord Shiva. He was telling that I gave my daughter is so beautiful, she has eyes like a doe. But then this Shiva, he lives in crematorium. He's so dirty. He just smears ashes on his body, and he has eyes like that of a monkey. I've given my daughter to him, and he's not at all qualified. And he started blaspheming Shiva again and again. So because this blaspheming was going on, what happened was the associates of Lord Shiva, headed by Nandishvara, they got very offended, and then they started cursing Daksha and Bhrigu and others who were supporting Daksha. And Bhrigu started cursing the associates of Shiva, and this counter cursing was going on and on and on, and it was endless. But Lord Shiva, when all this was going on, he just did not like it. So he just walked out without saying a word. So again, he did not react. He didn't show his anger at that point in time. His anger was very controlled. He did not show any anger. He just saw all this cursing and counter cursing, and he thought this was not very pleasant, and he walked out. And here we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4 to 33 that describes the excellent character of Lord Shiva in that assembly. Here, Lord Shiva's excellent character is described. In spite of the cursing and counter cursing between the parties of Daksha and Shiva, because he is the greatest Vaishnava, he was so sober that he did not say anything. A Vaishnava is always tolerant, and Lord Shiva is considered the topmost Vaishnava. So his character, as shown in the scene, is excellent. He became remorse because he knew that these people, both his men and Daksha's men, were unnecessarily cursing and counter cursing one another without any interest in spiritual life. From his point of view, he did not see anyone as lower or higher because he is a Vaishnava. So, Vaishnava qualities, tolerance, he exhibited that. But, however, further, what happened was again there was a situation where Daksha decided to perform a yajna called as the Vajpaya yajna, and he purposely did not invite Lord Shiva. However, Sati Devi, who is the wife of Lord Shiva, being the daughter of Daksha and hence celebrated as Dakshayani, she wanted to actually attend the sacrifice that was performed by her own father. She wanted to go to her father's home, meet her parents, and meet her sisters. And she saw that everyone was going, but she was not able to go because there was no invitation. So, therefore, she spoke to her husband, Lord Shiva, and she told him that it is not necessary for us to get invitation from our own relatives. We can still go. But then Lord Shiva did kind of stopped her. He said, no, it's not really a good idea because it is correct. What you're saying is correct. There's no necessity to get invitations from our relatives. But then, if the relative harbors a lot of envy and doesn't like us and has these glances of anger at us, it is not a good idea to go there. However, Sati, because she was very young and she really wanted to see her parents, she insisted and she decided to go. So the attendants of Lord Shiva made sure that her journey was comfortable. They gave her a bird and then a mirror and a lot of things that she liked, seated her on Nandi, and then sent her off. And they also accompanied her. So all this was arranged by Lord Shiva, though he didn't like the idea of her going there because he knew very well that she would be disrespected and she would get angry ultimately. Still, he couldn't stop her. So he made sure that she was comfortable and he sent some of his associates with Sati, and Sati went to that sacrifice. And as expected, when she went there, she was not respected properly. She was not received. Only her mother and sister spoke to her. Her father did not even acknowledge her coming, and there was no sacrificial offerings kept aside for Lord Shiva. So she felt very offended, and she told her father that this body has been given by you, and I'm so ashamed of it. So I want to relinquish this body. And she performed the Sat Chakra Yoga, through which she gave up her body, and her body burst into flames. So you see, in the previous scene, Lord Shiva was very tolerant. He just got up and he walked out. He didn't say a word. But when he learned from Narada Muni that his dear wife was put through all this and she had to give up her body, he got extremely upset and he got extremely angry because it was an offense made to Sati. So he got extremely angry, so much so that he started dancing his Pandava in anger, and from his hair he created a fiery demon called as, no, it was not Maniman, it was, I forget the demon's name, Veerabhadra. He created Veerabhadra, and then Veerabhadra went and he chopped off the head of Daksha and offered it as an offering inside the fire sacrifice. That was the scene that happened because of his anger. But this anger was aimed at reformation. What happened eventually? Later, Brahma and the demigods, they went and they requested Lord Shiva to come and forgive Daksha and bless him. And eventually, Lord Shiva, who had really calmed down by then, he spoke to Brahma some very beautiful words. And this shows the compassionate nature of Lord Shiva. Even if he gets angry, it is for the benefit of the other party. So he says this. This is Bhagavatam 4 to 33. When he was speaking to Brahma, he begins to say, in spite of the cursing and counter cursing between the parties of Daksha and Shiv, no, I think we finished this. There is a, yeah, this is the verse that I wanted to sing. Lord Shiva said to Brahma, my dear father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods because these demigods are childish and less intelligence. I do not take a serious view of their offenses, and I have punished them only in order to right them. This is 472, and the purport is, one second, let me just.
Not able to hear Mataji.
She'll come back.
Yeah, just give me a second. Yeah, thank you so much. So Lord Shiva said, my dear father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods. Because these demigods are so childish and less intelligent, I do not take a serious view of their offenses, and I have punished them only in order to right them. This is 472. And here in the purport, Prabhupada writes, there are two types of punishment. One is that which a conqueror imposes on an enemy, and the other is like that of a father that imposes on his son. There is a gulf of difference between these two kinds of punishment. Lord Shiva is by nature a Vaishnava, a great devotee, and his name in this connection is Ashutosha. He is always satisfied, and therefore he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. He is not inimical to any living entity. Rather, he always wishes the welfare of all. Whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment to his son. Lord Shiva is like a father because he never takes seriously any offense by any living entities, especially the demigods. So his anger was aimed at reformation, and he did not continue to harbor that anger in spite of whatever had happened. And this is the crest jewel quality of every Vaishnava, which is humility personified. And this is the last quality we'll be seeing today. So, this is my favorite pastime of Lord Shiva, and it is from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's a very beautiful story. Brihad Bhagavatamrita, both part 1 and part 2 is extremely beautiful. In part 1, we see Narada Muni was searching for the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. So he was traveling from one place to another, trying to find the person who has received the greatest mercy of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Finally, he understands that it is the gopis of Vrindavan who have actually acquired the greatest mercy. But in his search, he also came across Lord Shiva. Such a beautiful interaction in the Bhagavatamrita between Lord Shiva and Narada. Again, it speaks bounds and leaps about the great quality of Lord Shiva. So when Narada heard from his father Brahma that it is actually Lord Shiva who is the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy, Narada wanted to go and pay a visit to Lord Shiva. When he entered the residence of Lord Shiva, where Lord Shiva was residing, at that time, Narada was going forward and he wanted to pay obeisances to Lord Shiva when he caught the first glimpse of Lord Shiva. However, when Lord Shiva saw that such a great Vaishnava as Narada was about to pay obeisances to him, he immediately stopped Narada and he rose him up and he embraced him. That was the first interaction that he had with Narada. He didn't allow Narada to fall down at his feet. Then Narada began glorifying Lord Shiva, calling him as the Lord of the universe, the controller of the universe. At that time, Lord Shiva, what he did was he closed his ears. You see in this picture, Lord Shiva's closing his ears. And he said, don't say that, don't say that. I am only the servant of the Supreme Lord. And then Narada got a little scared that he probably offended Lord Shiva. Then he told Lord Shiva, however, you are the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And sometimes Krishna, he goes to the extent of worshipping you in his various incarnations. So when Narada said that, Lord Shiva immediately rose from where he was sitting and he went and he closed the mouth of Narada Muni. And he told Narada Muni, don't even remind me of what I have done. I have made such great offenses to the Supreme Lord that the Supreme Lord has worshipped me in his various incarnations. So, such a beautiful interaction, and it just shows who Lord Shiva is. And then Narada Muni, he didn't know what to say. And then Lord Shiva told Narada Muni that I have made a lot of offenses, so much so that sometimes I just give away boons to demons. And these demons, they create so much havoc, and the Supreme Lord has to come and he has to solve these issues. And he thinks about the various boons that he has given to all different demons. And he tells that these demons, I get easily pleased, these demons perform austerities, and I just give them the boons. And then later, every time Krishna has to take an incarnation or Krishna has to do something to come and rectify the situation. So I'm not a receiver of mercy, rather, I'm an offender. So when Lord Shiva was expressing his heart, at that time, Narada Muni, he told him, you are very dear to Krishna. Therefore, there is no room for you to commit offenses to him. Although sometimes it may appear that you committed offenses, but Krishna never considered them to be offenses. Although you gave boon to offenders of Vaishnavas, there was some loopholes in these boons. So this is the point that Sanatan Goswami tries to tell us about the glories of Lord Shiva. Yes, Lord Shiva gave boons, that is right. But then when he gave boons, he made sure that they were just not, blindly given. He made sure that there were loopholes in that boons so that the Supreme Lord could take care of it, and it would be a glorification of the Supreme Lord. Narada Muni told him, but when someone offends you, you don't take that offense seriously. But then, how is Lord Shiva when someone offends the Vaishnavas or great devotees of the Lord? Lord Shiva takes it very seriously. So these are in fact the glories of Lord Shiva. Narada, he talks about two boons that Lord Shiva had given purposely with loopholes. One is to Kaliyawana and the other is Jayadratha. So you take the story of Jayadratha. Everyone knows the story of Jayadratha from the Mahabharata. Jayadratha performed great austerities to please Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva did give him a boon. But then the boon he gave is, you may not be able to conquer all the Pandavas at a time. He said that Arjuna cannot be conquered by you, but then on one particular day, I will give you a boon that you will be able to defeat the rest of the Pandavas. He didn't give him a boon recklessly saying that, oh, you'll defeat all the Pandavas and everyone will be killed by you. He didn't give that boon. So he made sure there were loopholes so that the Lord could perform his Leela. Another story is that of Kaliyawana. So who was Kaliyawana? You all know the story of Kaliyawana, that he was, he was the one whom Krishna chased, and then finally he entered a cave where Muchkunda was sleeping. So you all know the story. This Kaliyawana, he was the son of a personality by the name Gargya. Now this Gargya is not Gargamuni, but rather he is a son of Gargamuni. He's called as Gargya Balika, and his story is mentioned in the Garga Samhita, that he had a fight with the Yadus, and therefore he decided to have a son that would attack the Yadus, and therefore with the Yavana he had a son by the name Kalyavana. And Kalyavana, again, he received certain boons from Lord Shiva that he would be very powerful and he would be able to defeat the Yadus. But however, there were loopholes in these boons also. That's why you see Krishna actually ran away. When Kalyavana was chasing him, Krishna ran away. He didn't stand and start fighting with Kalyavana. Rather, he ran away, and then he went into a cave where Muchukunda was sleeping, and Muchukunta opened his eyes and Kalyavana was burnt into ashes. So Lord Shiva didn't give boons in such a way that it would be a very big problem, to solve the issue. He was very careful when he gave boons. And we know so many other stories of Lord Shiva, like the story of Banasura, Vrikasura. You read all these stories in the Bhagavatam. But then the interaction between the Supreme Lord and Shiva was of that of friendship and with a lot of respect. So he, being an expansion of the Supreme Lord, originally as Sadashiva, he had a very nice relationship with the Supreme Lord, and that is being described in each of those pastimes. Now, Lord Shiva, he is very appreciative of all the Vaishnavas. That is his underlying mood, and that is the reason Bhagavatam celebrates him as the greatest of all Vaishnavas. So these are some beautiful verses wherein Lord Shiva glorifies the Vaishnava, and it is worth having a look at. So I have about 3 verses where Lord Shiva glorifies Vaishnavas. The first one is very, very famous. It is directly from the Padma Purana, and it is quoted in many purports. Very famous verse. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhananam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samacharanam. Lord Shiva told the goddess Durga, my dear Devi, although the Vedas recommend worship of demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is rendering service to the Vaishnavas who are related to Lord Vishnu. So it was Lord Shiva who made the statement that Thadiyananam Thadis. Thadi means the ones who are serving the Supreme Lord, the servants of the Supreme Lord. They are actually worshipping them is the topmost worship. So this was declared by Lord Shiva in the Padma Purana. And then you have another very famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse was spoken to Parvati when he was glorifying the great character of Chitraketu. So again, another place where Bhagavatam describes the glories of Lord Shiva is in the pastime of Chitraketu from the 6th canto. He told Parvati, when Parvati cursed Chitraketu to become a demon, and later Chitraketu took the birth as Vritrasura. So at that time, he told Parvati about the glories of Vaishnavas. He said, Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibyate swarga apavarga narakeshva api tulyartha darshinaha. He said, devotees slowly engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana never face any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planet, liberation, and hellish planet all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. When he saw that Chitraketu Maharaj was not at all, when Chitraketu, who was a Gandharva, had made a apparent offense towards Lord Shiva, and Parvati got agitated and cursed him to become Vritrasura, at that time he was not at all agitated by it. He considered any place, whether it is hell or heaven or any place, to be all right as long as he's situated in devotional service. So, looking at his reaction, Lord Shiva makes the statement about Vaishnavas, that Vaishnavas, they never fear any condition in life. For them, heavenly planets, liberation, hellish planets, everything is the same as long as they are given an opportunity to engage in devotional service. And later, Vritrasura proves to be a great hero and he attains perfection as an asura. So that is again the beauty of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam discusses the instances of even asuras perfecting life. And people like Vritrasura, even in that bodily condition, he could actually attain perfection. Another verse is from Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 24, verse number 29. This was spoken to the Prachetas. So he talks about the glories of being a devotee. Lord Shiva tells, a person who executes his occupational duty properly for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. This is something you all know. A person who has performed perfect occupational duties for 100 years, he can become a Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. Now, note here, it doesn't say he can become Shiva because nobody can become Shiva. Shiva is Shiva, okay? Shiva Tattva remains, it's a standalone position. Nobody becomes Shiva. He can approach Lord Shiva. That means if you have become even more qualified, you can become an associate of Lord Shiva. A person who's directly surrendered to Krishna or Vishnu in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. So this is even better. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of this material world. So this is one verse that is again often quoted about how one can become Brahma, how one can approach Shiva, and how devotional service to Lord Vishnu is actually the highest. This was directly spoken by Lord Shiva. It was not spoken by anyone else. It was Lord Shiva who made the statement. He said, in fact, me and others, we attain these planets only after a very long time. But Vaishnavas, they are able to attain Lord Vishnu's abode very easily. I really love this picture, so that's why I've put it here. It is the glimpse of Gopakumar having a glimpse of Lord Shiva when he was traveling through different planetary systems. So here you have Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi riding on a bull, and Gopakumar, he happens to see this sight when he's traveling, and then eventually he lands up in Vaikuntha. So, what is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam? This is our final slide. This is where we get our praman. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. We always say, right? Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. So this is a verse directly from Bhagavatam 12, 13, 16. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu or Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So this is our praman. We use this. We use a verse directly from Bhagavatam when we say Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. So we have seen the great qualities of Lord Shiva, how he is the most celebrated Vaishnava, and we have discussed Shiva Tattva based on what scriptures have to say. So I end the presentation here. If you have any questions, comments, or realizations, please go ahead. And sorry for the breaks in between. Hare Krishna. And if there are any corrections or any feedback, please feel free. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Such a mind-blowing class, I should say. What a mind-blowing presentation. And how wonderfully you explain. And I think so now that you have churned the whole Srimad Bhagavatam so wonderfully. And who says that Bhagavatam doesn't have any commands? No, Bhagavatam is the epitome of everything. So wonderful class, wonderful. And I really liked the pastime that you quoted from Brihad Bhagavatam with also. That was also so sweet, so wonderful. And I remember those days when, we were so eagerly attending those Brihad Bhagavatamrita sessions. They were so wonderful. So thank you, Mataji. Really, and definitely no corrections because everything was Srimad Bhagavatam and you quoted so wonderfully. The presentation was flawless, and the way you explained, the way you dive deep into the mood of Lord Shiva was really awesome. I really appreciate for your commendable job, Mataji. Thank you so much for taking so much pains and accepting this request and enlightening on this wonderful subject matter. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Kirtida Sundari Mataji, for this great opportunity. If not for this, I wouldn't have studied at all. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Beautiful, beautiful presentation, Mataji. So nice. And the pictures were so cute, I love that. So nice.
I don't know, after the Damodar Madhava Govinda classes, I always feel cartoon pictures so much.
It was so good, Mataji. Thank you so much. Mataji, I have a question. Lord Shiva was born with the anger, and that's why he's called Rudra.
Mm-hmm.
But how come then he doesn't get angry and he's Ashutosh and he's happy in whatever he has, and it's all good qualities in him.
Mm-hmm. So yes, he has to get angry for certain tasks like destruction and other things. So unless there is the mode of passion, it is very difficult to do tasks like destruction or ignorance. So therefore he gets angry. Yes, he gets angry to do these things, but his anger is aimed at something better, something reforming, something changing, like he showed towards Daksha. But still, a person is considered great when he can control his anger. So if his anger is so reckless that he cannot even control it, then he's not even considered to be something wonderful. But Lord Shiva knows to get angry when he has to get angry, and he knows to withdraw his anger when it is not necessary. So that's what makes him great. And that's how he can exhibit both tolerance and anger at the same time, to the extent it is needed. So did that help, Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you, Mataji.
Amazing class. Amazing.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Dandatpanam. Very amazing and nectarian class, Mataji. And so beautiful presentation, Mataji. I'm so thankful for you for giving such a wonderful presentation. I request all the devotees, if anybody have any questions or comments. Do you have time, Mataji, for some time?
Yeah, I have time. And yes, I've been seeing many people are asking for the presentation. I'm very, very glad and happy to share it. But I don't know if I can send it on the Zoom, but I can send it on WhatsApp. If all of you are on the WhatsApp chat on Bhakti Sangha Japa group, please, you can pick it up from there. I'll just send it there. And if you're not, Mataji has given the links to join the WhatsApp chat. You can join there too. And then I'll send it there.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So I request devotees, if anybody have any questions for Mataji or realizations, you can please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. I really, really appreciate this lesson because before I understood Krishna consciousness, I really, really was attracted to Lord Shiva. And I learned it now even more so that by pleasing Krishna, Shiva is happy as well. I've come into a lot of understanding in only the short time that I've been in Krishna consciousness. And your lesson was so exquisite, just very detailed. And I'm so fortunate I was able to listen. Thank you so much for your knowledge and wisdom. And I pray Krishna continues to bless every step you make. Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank you, Flavia Mataji. It's so nice to see you and listen from you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Thank
beautiful
you very
words.
much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Kalindani Preethi Mataji, you can please go ahead and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All Krishna Prabhupada. Much the amazing class Mataji of Krishna. I was like mesmerized because I was having so many doubts about Lord Shiva. You compiled all the things and it's all my doubts has been cleared. I want to know some of them, Mataji. One thing is he's extraordinary Vaishnava. So as a devotee of Lord Krishna, what we have to do on this auspicious day of Mahashivratri, Mataji?
There are some recommendations. One is, yes, if it's a part of your family tradition to follow a fast, that is fine. And also, Sanatana Goswami um, in his Hari Bhakti Vilas, he quotes from Skanda Purana, and he says that devotees can observe a fast or keep an overnight vigil, that is, keep awake and respect Lord Shiva on this particular day. That is all right. And again, it is, and also Prabhupada in one of the purports of, it's not purport, it's Krishna, about the pastime of Nanda Maharaj and the associates going and observing the Shivaratri festival. He does say that it is not a common practice that every year you have to do it, but you can do it. There is no harm in that. But what a Vaishnava would it is recommended for a Vaishnava to do is to read some pastimes pertaining to Lord Shiva and understand his qualities and his glories. That is highly recommended. If you want to know what I need to do as a devotee, how can I respect him further, try to meditate on some of his pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. That will be of great value, Mataji. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mataji. And in the altar, Mataji, if someone wants to keep Lord Shiva, like what's the position higher than the Vaishnavas, Parampara we have to keep, or near Parampara? I just want to know, Mataji. Can you please explain that?
I am not qualified to give an explanation. I don't know what exact altar you have, whether you have it at different levels and how you have designed your altar. But if you just have two levels, yes, the Supreme Lord takes the position on top, and his forms like Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Gauranitai, or Radha Krishna, or whatever deities, Gopal, whatever deities you have, they take the top position. And then, yes, with the acharyas, that's fine to have Lord Shiva, that's all right. Because again, as Vaishnavas, we see Lord Shiva as a guru, right? I mean, he's a Parama Vaishnava. So we see him as a guru in one sense. Yes, the Rudra Sampradaya considers him to be the spiritual master of their Sampradaya. So I don't see any harm in that. But again, I'm not qualified to give a perfect answer. It depends on the situation and your altar structure. And maybe your spiritual master can also be consulted for this if he's accessible to you.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalindani Preethi Mataji. Now I request Karunaka Gopika Mataji. You can please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Just very, very, very wonderful lecture, Mataji, about Shiva. Mataji, I know it is not, you said about the loopholes of the benediction, what Lord Shiva always give. So is it considered that you have given the 11 names of Lord Shiva? So that Ravana got 10 heads, so with the 10 names, but that Hanuman is one of the part. So Rudra is, I don't know, like, is it something related with that names or benedictions, and that was the loophole of the Hanuman? Do you have more understanding on that, Mataji?
I've not heard that perspective so far, or I don't have a reference for that perspective, that 10 heads and then the loophole was Hanuman. I've not seen a specific reference, so I cannot comment. But maybe if you have reference, or if you've read it somewhere, then we can analyze and see if that makes sense.
Means Hanuman is incarnation of Lord Shiva. So because he's a very great devotee of Lord Shiva, Ravana. So when he put the prayers of Lord Shiva, I think he just got did not do the Rudra or some of the Rudra name, and that's how Hanuman was one of the like he's the against with Lord Rama. So that was the loophole I think they found out, but I'm not sure. Like that's why I asked you.
Yeah, I've not heard it, Mataji. Maybe I've just not come across it, so I'm not able to comment.
No problem, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your association, Mataji.
No, Mataji, thank you for everything. Like it's wonderful presentation, though you're very busy, but it's really good to hear, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karnika Mataji. Now I request Vrunda Mataji, you can please go ahead and ask your question. And you can unmute Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandat Pranam. What a beautiful class, Mataji. What a beautiful PPT and presentation, and really very well researched. Like you got all the verses related to Lord Shiva from Bhagavatam, from Brahma Samhita, and you just presented it to us today. It's so beautiful. I feel that hearing from you about Lord Shiva was the best thing I could do to worship Lord Shiva today. Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions, Mataji. So you mentioned that Rudra comes from Shambhu. And you also said that Rudra also comes from the forehead of Brahma. So like, how do I understand this connection? Like he comes from both, right?
Yeah. So actually, it's not that Rudra is directly coming from Shambhu. Universe, when he appears in the material universe, he appears from the forehead of Brahma. So just like you have Lord, I'll just give a very high-end example. Like for example, Lord Narsingadev, he appears from the pillar. So his appearance from the material world is from a pillar, okay? But it doesn't. But again, Lord Narsingadev is ultimately an expansion from the spiritual world, expansion from Vaikuntha, expansion of Krishna. So like that, you have to understand.
Okay, so his expansion of Shambhu, and okay, so he comes from Brahma's forehead.
Yes.
So say Lord Shiva. So he's actually Shambhu, right? Like, right? Shiva, we say. So who is in the past tense and who is with his consort? So that is Shambhu, right?
Yes.
And not Shiv. So Shambhu's another name is Shiva, right?
Yes. And one other thing, Mataji, the name Shiva, Shambhu, all of them, they are used interchangeably most of the times.
Okay.
And the entire Tattva is called as Shiva Tattva. So sometimes you will see even Sadashiva being called as Shiva, or even Rudra sometimes being referred as Shiva. And you see among the 11 Rudras, one of the Rudras also Shiva.
Okay.
So many of these are used interchangeably, and you have to take it according to the context and according to the commentary of the acharyas.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That also I had in mind for a long time. So, and see, what is the significance of Shiva's tilak? Like it is horizontal, and like Vaishnavas usually have the tilak, how we have, right? So what is the significance of his tilak?
The direction, I'm not so much aware, so I don't want to comment, but I know that Shiva's, the followers of certain Shiva sects, they smear ashes on their forehead. Ashes meaning like, following their leader, who's Lord Shiva, who lives in crematorium and who smears ashes on his body. So they smear ashes. So that's what I have understood. But the Vaishnava Tilak tradition is vertical, while the Shiva, which is the ashes, is generally horizontal. Why that way, I don't know. Maybe someone can add. I'm not aware of the reason why it is horizontal.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. And Shiva has 3 eyes. There is 1 eye on the forehead. So we know that when he's angry, then he opens that. Is there anything more we should know to understand the significance of his 3rd eye?
Yeah, the followers of the yoga tradition, they connect it with the Agnya Chakra that is there in this 3rd eye region that is there. So they connect and they have some tradition where they give an importance saying that, oh, Shiva is the greatest yogi and he has his Agnya open. So again, that is to do with the yoga tradition, the people who follow the yoga system. But other than that, yes, he uses his third eye when he's really angry to burn people to ashes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful and nectarian class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So now I request Sujata Srikanteshwaran. Mataji, you can please go ahead and unmute.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. She's in her name.
Hi Krishna, Preethi, what a beautiful class. I don't have any questions, but it was just so amazing and I was just soaking it in, and I think I'll have to listen it all over today to actually get into. I mean, it was so amazing. You covered all bases and wonderful pastimes, and I like the presentation slides too. Very colorful with the creepers and everything. So I just wanted to tell you're like back to form after your Brihad Bhagavata Amrita day. So it was just so amazing experience. Thank you so much, Preethi.
Thank you, Siksagri
Maha-
Mataji. Thank you for
Mahashivratri.
warm wishes and blessings. Thank you so much.
Amazing class, really.
Thank you, Mataji. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Now I request Shyam Sudhakar Prabhuji. You can go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhan Pranam. Please accept humble wishes. Very nice class, Mataji. Always inspired by your detailed points. Very nice. Thank you so much, Mataji. What I have, I'll speak for myself. My family is very, orthodoxical. My uncles and all my uncles have been in Kashi and they don't want to leave that place. My forefathers are all very staunch worshippers of Lord Shiva. So, but I see consistently this gap between Vaishnavas, Vaishnavites and Shaivites. Though the scriptures, you have referred very nicely in this Bhagavatam, Shiva is the most exalted Vaishnava, right? I mean, if you can throw some light where this gap is coming, why the Shaivites have to treat Vaishnavites, and why there are two sects actually prevalent even today. In the age today, we see there's so much of oppositeness, and it's very hard to convince when I talk to my uncles and all. And we give, it's a master of all the scriptures, but it's very difficult. I sometimes wonder where this disconnect, when this disconnect has started, and maybe something very general question, but any cues, I'm pretty sure it will be helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu, for that very nice question. Yes, it's a very relevant question of what is happening in today's world. I can just give an understanding of how people have really misunderstood a lot of things. There's a lot of confusion in general population about the philosophy and other things that has happened, that is derived from Vedic scriptures. So basically, as I was telling in the beginning of the session, that generally there are only two philosophies. Okay, one is the Smarta philosophy. The Smartas, they are not really Shaivites. So that is one misunderstanding common public has, that Smartas are Shaivites. Actually, no. Though they may be going to a Shiva temple and smearing vibhuti or ashes on their forehead, still Smartas are not Shaivites. That is the first misunderstanding common public has. Who are Smartas? Smartas are impersonalists. And in the Smarta Vidhi, that is the followers of Shankaracharya are not Shaivites. That's the first thing. What do they do? What do the Smartas or the followers of Shankaracharyas do? What they do is they do Panchadeva Upasana. Upasana it is called. That means depending on the family tradition, they pick one of the 5 deities and they worship him as a stepping stone towards understanding the Nirguna Brahman or the impersonal Brahman. So, in their initial stages of sadhana, what they are recommended to do is they are asked to worship one of the 5 deities. Who are the 5 deities? It can be Vishnu, It can be Shiva, it can be Parvati or Durga, it can be in some traditions Surya, in some traditions Kartikeya, and it can be Ganesh. Okay, so you can pick and choose a deity that that is there in your family tradition, and you can become a devotee as a stepping stone to eventually understand the impersonal Brahman. So this is the tradition that is followed by Smartas. Generally, many Smartas are they begin with Shiva Upasana. So therefore, people get confused and think that they are Shaivites, but they are not even Shaivites. Even the Smartas don't know this. 90% of them don't even know this, that they are not Shaivites, they are Smartas. Because why? Because they are followers of Shankaracharya. What is Shankaracharya's philosophy? Shankaracharya's philosophy is impersonal Brahman, worship of the impersonal Brahman. But he has told us as grihasthas or as stepping stones, basically, you can take up upasana vidhi. That is, you can start doing some upasana, and eventually you develop jnana, and from jnana you understand Brahman. Brahman is everything, impersonal Brahman is everything. But there is so much confusion, and people are identifying themselves as Shaivites. Okay, that is the first problem that is there in society today, in the Indian society. The second thing is, do we have Shaivites at all? Yes, we have. We have Shaivites. Like, for example, the proponents of Shaiva Siddhanta, that is one philosophy, and some other. Kashmir Shaivism is probably very popular. They are really Shaivites, meaning they are thinking Shiva is the supreme. Okay. For such people, actually, if, as I was mentioning, if you just have the Vedic scriptures and do research from the Vedic scriptures, they cannot definitively come up with the understanding that Shiva is the supreme, because the Vedas is not supporting that 100%. Vedas can support Vishnu as the supreme. People like Shankaracharya and his followers are able to derive that there is an impersonal Brahman which is the supreme. But to authoritatively put down that Shiva is the supreme just from the Vedas is difficult. It's extremely hard. Vedas, which include the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Puranas, taking everything into consideration. That's why Sripad Madhvacharya said in the beginning and in the end and in the middle, everywhere I see only Narayana as the supreme. That's why Madhvacharya makes that famous statement. So, what happens? There is this group of Shaivites, they call themselves. In that group also there are two branches. In one branch, they still go with the impersonal philosophy, because as I said, it's very difficult to come to that conclusion, right? So if they have to put down a philosophy that is solid, they come up with an impersonal understanding of God. They don't but they focus on Shiva Upasana. But the other branch who do Shiva Bhakti, they say Shiva Bhakti, but actually Bhakti cannot be applied, as how Prabhupada explains. But still, they consider a personal form of Shiva. For them, they need the support of certain Shaiva agamas to establish their fact. These Shaiva agamas are again another text. Even Vaishnavas have agamas. But the Shaiva agamas may not be 100% supported by the Vedas. So, with the help of these agamas, they come up with a philosophical understanding to say Shiva is the supreme. So until a person has really studied Shaiva Siddhanta, he cannot even call himself a Shaivite. He's still a Smarta. The people today in Kashi or in most places, they are all Smartas. So the first thing we should ask them is, what is your philosophy? Who is your guru? How are you getting your knowledge? Because most people in India, common man is driven by sentiments. Like, for example, before coming to Krishna consciousness, even I was very sentimentalist. So what I would think is, okay, I have an affiliation or an interest or an inclination to worship one particular demigod, or any form whom I think is God, and I get very attached to that because of the sentiment. But I'm not looking at any philosophy. I'm not looking at what the scriptures are saying. I'm purely driven by sentiment. If I'm purely driven by sentiment, then it should not be taken too seriously. That is when the divide between followers of Shiva and followers of Vishnu happen, and then there is a tiff and there is a fight. Why? The root cause is sentiment. We have very strong sentiments. That's the root cause of misunderstanding. But if we look at it logically, like it was seen some thousands of years ago, when people would have philosophical debates, when different people would come forward and establish their school of thought in the Vedic tradition, they were not just purely sentimental. They would come and they would put down philosophies and they would debate and then establish their thoughts. So Today, why the tiff is there? It is because of sentiment. That is the truth. Because we are attracted to a particular form. We think, okay, I'm sentimental about Lord Shiva. I just like Shiva so much. So therefore, he's a supreme. If a Vaishnavite says no, this is not accepted, I cannot accept him. So it all comes down to emotions at the end of the day. This is the root cause of the problem. Why there is a divide between so-called Shaivites. They are not even Shaivites in the true sense, and Vaishnavites. So I hope it helped. Even many, I'm not telling this only Shiva, Shaivites are sentimentalists. Even there are a lot of Vishnu worshippers who are sentimentalists and who are just driven by the idea that Vishnu is everything. Anyone says Shiva is the supreme, I'm going to put him down. But they don't even have a philosophical backing to do it. Even Vaishnavites also, so-called Vaishnavites also have this problem. That's why there is a fight and there is a divide. Did this help in any way, Sham Sudhakar Prabhu?
Yeah, that's a very more helpful, Mataji. But I just wanted to think a little bit more, like even Shaiva Siddhanta was also growing scripturally by again narrating a lot of pastimes, Puranas. So and they also say a lot of Upanishads, and many of their pastimes, Narayana or any presence are not there basically in those. And Shaiva Siddhanta is also like very unique, saying they have their own, as you said, agama, right? They develop their own. So is it coming from the ancient times? If we consider, all these yugas and before the yugas, is it where is the Siddhanta growing and coming scripturally? I'm saying. Right. I mean, impersonalism, I understood definitely what you just said. It's a very good point. I can relate some my instances with my discussions, but definitely there is Siddhanta also, right? So somebody is following that today. Actually.
Yeah. So again, the problem with Shaiva Siddhanta is that even the personalist school of Shaiva Siddhanta, they are mainly using agamas. These agamas, is the analysis of the agamas backed by the Vedas? See, our pramana is Vedas, right? So is it backed by the Vedas? Not necessarily. So that is where their problem is. Like, for example, I will tell you one purport of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that comes from 545. I can probably share that. Let me share screen now. Here we go. Yeah. So this is the verse 545, Shiram Yatadadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat. And then you have this commentary by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And what does he say? I'll just read the last few parts. I thought it was interesting, at least to me, with respect to Agama Shastras. The personality of the destructive principle in the form of time has been identified with that of Shambhu by scriptural evidences that have been adduced in the commentary. The purport of the Bhagavata shlokas, which is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, etc., is that Shambhu, in pursuance of the will of Govinda, works in union with his consort Durga Devi by his own energy. He teaches pious duties, dharma, as stepping stones to the attainment of spiritual service in the various Tantra Shastras, etc., suitable for jivas in different grades of the conditional existence. In obedience to the will of Govinda, Shambhu maintains and fosters the religion of pure devotion by preaching the cult of illusionism, Mayavad, and the speculative Agama Shastras. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati seems to be very clear in terms of how they establish, how the followers of Shiva establish Shambhu or Shiva as their supreme, based on the cult of illusionism, Mayavad, and the speculative Agama Shastras. And he says that most of these teachings that they have are dharma as stepping stones to attainment of spiritual service in the various Tantra Shastras. So the overall understanding that I am getting from these commentaries, though I have not studied Shaiva Siddhanta in any way, but what I've heard from the commentaries of the Vaishnava Acharyas is that it cannot be clearly established just based on the Vedas and their corollaries that really Shiva is the supreme, until they take the support of certain agamas that may not be adhering nicely with the Vedas, conclusion of the Vedas. So even in the Puranas, which are more on the tamasic side, like there are 18 Puranas, 6 are Sattvic, then you have Rajasic, then you have Tamasa Puranas. Even in those Puranas also, it is clearly stated, like for example, Devi Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that sometimes one Purana can have an opposing view with another Purana. But then how to reconcile all this? If it is matching with the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas, then those statements are to be considered as valid. So this is a common rule of thumb that is being followed by people who come up with various philosophies, right? Because you just cannot go with one set of Tamasa Puranas and establish a supreme deity. You cannot do that. So when there is a conflict, then what do? You refer and see what is the conclusion of the Vedas and then go with it. So that's how you solve such problems. And yes, these agamas and all have been there. Vaishnava agamas are also there. But then to understand, come up with a conclusion of who's supreme, how do you establish a philosophy, that should be done with the help of Vedanta. That's what I have understood from what is being told here, Prabhu. I think the last paragraph really helps for us to understand what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is trying to tell. Did this help, Prabhu, in any way?
Thank you so much, Mataji, for your patience and bearing with me. I have very helpful. Please again accept my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Now I request Vrinda Mataji, you can please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Preethi, Vilasini, Mataji, Ananta Koti Dandavat Pranam. So nicely explained all the story. Lesson you teach us in every class that Lord Shiva has so much patience and Krupalu and Dayalu. Somebody has given a hard time to Vaishnava and criticize Vaishnava. That Vaishnava will forgive them, but Lord Shiva will not forgive them. And from childhood we worship Lord Shiva, me and my brother, although my parents are worship Lord Shri Laddu Gopal. So at the 11th grade when came, Lord Shiva is a great Vaishnava. Then we started to worship Laddu Gopal, Shri Laddu Gopal. So because of the mercy of Lord Shiva, Mataji, that's why my daughter name is Shivani and my brother's son name is Shivam. Mataji, I have one question, Mataji. So nicely you explained the last one, Narad Muni, and the Shiva is like, no, not hearing that picture, Mataji. That's too hard to all the Leelas. Ananta Koti Dandavat Pranam. My question is, I know it's too late, Mataji, why those who are worship Lord Shiva, I give a gift to my family member, Shri Laddu Gopal, they will come and keep it in my altar again, that Laddu Gopal. So those who are doing a puja of Srimati Shri Mata Rani and Lord Shiva, they are not accepting Lord Krishna. Why? And why they are doing to get a negative energy in a shmashan, and whole night they are doing puja and aradhana, and why they use in a negative way? That is not understand, Mataji. Ananta Koti Dandavat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Anda Gopika Mataji. Yes, they will, I think, as you said, eventually with mercy of Lord Shiva, they will also have a transformation of heart and they will come up to the platform of understanding, the real understanding that who Lord Shiva is and who Lord Vishnu is. And they'll be, and because Lord Shiva is so merciful, right? He can foster devotional, he can help to foster devotional service in the hearts of anybody. Most of us, I think, we have come from various backgrounds, and by the mercy of Lord Shiva and Durga, we have actually become Vaishnavas. So we can pray for them, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, after 8-9 years patiently given association to them, they started to accepting Lord Shiva and Lord Shri Srinathji. So this is the Murti. They started to Shri Laddu Gopal, little, not too much. And Shri Srinathji, we worship like you are worshipping Shri Tirupati Balaji. So now from last 8-9 months, at least they accept it. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Ananta Koti Dandavat Pranam, Mataji. It's touched to heart that Vaishnavas will be not deviated if somebody is given a hard time or somebody is not accepting Krishna conscious. That duty is just to give a Krishna conscious, whether somebody is accepting or not accepting. Just give a Krishna conscious by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. That much I understand. We have so much patience.
Thank you, Randa Gopika Mataji.
Thank you, Vrinda Gupta Mataji. Now I request Sita Preethi Mataji. You can please go ahead, Mataji.
Hi Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to His Holiness Padanath Swami Maharaj, and all glories to your service, Mataji. Beautiful, beautiful class. It is so nice to see you back. Back, I mean that back. Our story time. So many stories you said, and so many, not only stories, the way you linked it and the way you drew the inference from it. Like, because these stories we know, right? But then, like some of the stories we know, some we do not know. But to link it and to extrapolate the exact essence, because see, these stories are told by different people also, but then the meaning is totally twisted, and that is how the philosophy changes completely, right? And how you brought it properly to understand how the Vaishnavas are so respectful towards Lord Shiva, because this is what is a normal misunderstanding, right, outside, that oh, ISKCON, that means you all are not considering Lord Shiva anything, but they are so wrong. And it is so, you won't believe, but today itself I was like on the I had a discussion. I did not want to offend anyone, so I just kept quiet. But then it was like, I could understand that okay, this person is a impersonalist, or I think if I'm not wrong, the explanation of the Samartha Brahmanas which you are giving, it is, if I'm not wrong, because since my college days, we are listening to him, or we have been referring to him always. But he's never a person who will pull you into it, and he will say, okay, whatever you're doing wrong. Rather, he said that if you are following Srila Prabhupada, follow him, read the Bhagavad Gita as it is what you're. So he is at least a person who knows me, so he will not force me in any way. But then when I heard about your explanation, now I'm just getting a hint of what things are. And as you said now to Vrinda Gopika Mataji, that like when my in-laws place, they are like total, like Janmashtami is the biggest festival for us. So like that is celebrated in a very grand way. And my Prabhu, he was in sense, he used to he had a very good influence of always like Shiva, and he was into it. And when we were in Michigan, I used to feel like that some emptiness was there, like okay, I'm doing this Monday fast, Saturday fast, this fast, that fast. I don't know what it was, what going on. Then I used to pray to Lord that these people all into TV and these things. And I don't know, like I think because of Lord Shiva, and then I used to do Friday fasting also of Durga Devi. I think because of both of them, we got into Krishna consciousness. That is like my Prabhu also believes in that. And now if somebody tries to tell in different ways, he is rather with the answer that Shiva is the best Vaishnava, and how the scriptures are also providing it. So there is no way to turn back on that. Understanding philosophy and then going into it and sentimentally going into it. If you go sentimentally, you can always revert back to your square one.
Correct.
Right?
Very true. Very
so
very
so I think we should be so grateful to our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada that they have given such beautiful explanations. And like in the beginning of our school years, like okay, 2 times 2 is 4. That no matter how many, if somebody tells you 14, you won't believe it. It is that way how it has been imprinted now. And this is the essence of our ISKCON, like how things are so beautifully put up that you just cannot go back.
Very well, very nicely said.
And your class today is a must, like it should be heard again and again. And it is like amazing. The main essence was how you drew inferences from it. It is really amazing how you did it, Mataji. You are a truly blessed soul. And as I tell you over and over again, you are meant for many big things, and I'll wait for that day.
Thank you for your blessings, Mataji. And thank you for always being there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Priti Mataji. So now, if nobody have any questions, Mataji, there are some questions in the chat. Shall I read it for you, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. There's one question from Vivek Prabhu. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for this presentation. Have also heard Sadashiva also participates in pastimes as a cowherd boy in the Gokula Vrindavan. Can you please elaborate on this, Mataji? Is there a pranam for this?
Oh, I've not heard that. I've never heard that. First time I'm hearing. Absolutely no idea. Sorry, if anyone has an idea, they can comment. I've not heard this aspect. I've only heard of Gopeshwar Mahadeva pastime and not heard of this aspect of him participating as a cowherd boy. So I've not seen any pranam for that. Praman for that, sorry. Praman for that. But if someone else has, please feel free to share or also let me know so that I can forward it to Vivek Prabhu. Thank you.
I see Vivek Prabhu in the, he's also there. If you want to talk, you can talk, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
He's at work. I think he cannot.
Yeah,
I've not heard of Praman for that, and I've not heard of the concept also. Yeah. Maybe someone has told it and they have a Praman. I don't know.
Mataji Suksagari, Mataji shared some link.
Okay.
Yeah, Mataji.
Oh, Advaita Prabhu, the cowherd boy. Okay. Mahanidhi Swami. Oh, that's wonderful. So something new to learn. Advaita Prabhu, the cowherd boy. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Suksagari Mataji.
Yeah,
And the next question is from
yeah.
Supriya Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for such a brilliant class, Mataji. Mataji, can you please let us know on parts of Srimad Bhagavatam we have to meditate? I think so, based on Lord Shiva glorification. I think so, Mataji.
Yeah, you can read the story of Nanda Maharaj, and his party going. This is from the 10th canto. Let me open the chapter. Yeah. Otherwise, besides that, yes, my favorite is definitely the 8th canto, the Mohini Murti pastime. I think it talks a lot about Lord Shiva's glories, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita pastime of Narada Muni visiting Lord Shiva. That's very mesmerizing, actually. I really love that pastime. And these two are my favorite. And besides that, yes, Rudra Gita, that is very good because it is Lord Shiva's direct instruction. That is a very good idea to do. And then Chitraketu Maharaj, actually, as a Gandharva, him traveling in his airplane and then meeting Lord Shiva and how Lord Shiva interacts with him. And then he tells Parvati the glories of Vaishnavas. That is also a beautiful pastime to meditate on. So I think these are all very lovely pastimes about Lord Shiva. There is so much about Lord Shiva actually in the Bhagavatam itself. Yeah. And we have covered many of it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mataji. There is a question from Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Mataji, you want to ask or shall I read it for you, Mataji? Also, how Lord Varaha comes from a Lord Brahma's nostrils.
Yeah, I think she was commenting on
I was just commenting.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Narshingadeva appeared from pillar, and then I think that's what she means. Yeah. I understood. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Mataji. Yeah.
There is from Gali Prabhu or Mataji. I have a couple of questions, but I think so. He's in the group. I'll just see, Mataji.
It's Gaurangi Mataji, I think.
Mataji, you can unmute.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Krishna, Mataji. I just repeat every positive comment that everybody else has made, and I have to also add that this was a masterpiece lecture on Lord Shiva. A masterpiece. I can't wait to rehear until I can memorize everything. Anyway, one question I have is, would you say that how should I say, if you want to present something in a philosophical way rather than a sentimental way, the way to do that is simply to provide scriptural reference, or is there any other way to be philosophical in one's approach to any subject matter?
Yes, definitely scriptural reference is the best way. Go by scripture is the best way. And the second thing is our acharyas they have done all the work for us. Like you read Lagu Bhagavatamrita or any of the other works done by the acharyas. They have just collected so many scriptural evidences and presented it concept wise. So they have done all the research work for us. So we can just quote the work of the acharya that has everything in it.
Yeah.
Look at Hari Bhakti Vilas, look at Laghu Bhagavatamrita. It's just a collection of references, and they have done all the work.
Thank you. Also, when you were discussing, whether Shiva is like the supreme, if you just, I think you were saying that if you just go by the Puranas alone, it is, you cannot, how should I say, I think you're saying that if it's not in alignment with the conclusion of the Vedas, right? If what the Puranas are saying is not in alignment with the conclusion of the Vedas, then it's not valid. So my question is, since the Puranas are, I think, considered like an extended form of the Vedas, what are we really referring to as the Vedas? Are we just talking about like the 4 Vedas when we say it has to be in alignment with the conclusion of the Vedas, or what?
The Vedanta, the Upanishads and the Vedanta. So the idea is, there are 2-3 ways of looking at this. One is, if we have different Puranas, some Puranas conflict with each other in their conclusion. Okay, like if you read Shiva Purana and then you read Vishnu Purana or Bhagavatam, it might appear conflicting. So when you have these conflicts, how do you come to a conclusion as to which is right? Then you refer to the ultimate decision of the Vedas, which is recorded as the Vedanta Sutras. Right? You have the Vedanta Sutras and you have different acharyas who have commented on the Vedanta Sutras. So using that, you try to come to a understanding as to whether it is in line with it or it's not in line with it. And then you take a decision. That is what I was trying to explain.
Okay, so the ultimate authority is Vedanta Sutra.
Vedanta, yes, it is. But for us,
well, yeah.
But for us, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Jiva Goswami clearly says our ultimate reference
Bhagavatam.
is Bhagavatam. Yes, that is very clear for us, because Bhagavatam is in line with the Vedas. It is completely in line with the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutras, and that's why, and it has much more. So that's why for us, our ultimate Praman is Bhagavatam.
Also, I was trying to, in reference to the fact that, Lord Shiva, he only gets angry for the sake of the rectification of the jivas, right? It is not that he takes anything personally. So I just needed to confirm that when it came to even Parvati, the fact that when she self-immolated, that I mean to say, to think that he didn't get like he didn't take Daksha personally when it came to Parvati's case. That's a little difficult to swallow. You know what I'm saying? That he did that he behaved as he did with Daksha just for the sake of Daksha's rectification, and it was no, I don't know. You understand me?
What I was trying to say at that time is, for the sake of a devotee, he got angry. Because when Sati had immolated herself, that is when he got angry. When he saw that a devotee had given up the life, that is when he got angry, and then he did personal rectification. So he did it for when she went through this. It's not that he was insensitive to that. That was the trigger for him to get angry, actually. Because she was not treated properly. That was the real trigger. And then he did it for the ultimate rectification. His anger was for the ultimate rectification of Daksha, but the trigger definitely was the bad dealing with Parvati. How they dealt with Parvati very badly, or rather Sati very badly. Makes sense?
Okay, so So then there seems to be like a bit of a distinction between, you know, the trigger.
Yeah.
Right. The trigger and the way he channeled that trigger. You know, like
for example, the Lord, the Supreme Lord, he gets angry when his devotee is not treated properly, but his anger is aimed at the rectification of the wrongdoer, right? Like, for example, you take the story of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa. Just a random example. Of course, there are multiple more relevant examples, but this is coming to my mind now, so I'm telling. The immediate reason why Sudarshan was sent is because his devotee was not treated properly, right? That's the anger that the Lord had. But then ultimately, Durvasa's pride was crushed. That was the ultimate benefit of
result. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay. Then another thing was when you were trying to explain Lord Shiva's connection to the role of demigod, right? So when he expands as the 11 Rudras, right? For one thing, it's Shambhu who expands as the 11 Rudras, right? Shambhu. Uh-oh, I'm not hearing.
Mataji, you're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, Rudra himself, who comes from the forehead, further expands into 11 forms. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so in making the distinction between the Rudras and demigods, is the point that they behave as demigods, like taking the role of demigods, but they're not actually demigods, or can we say that they are actually demigods?
Yeah. So, and when it comes to the 11 Rudras, some of them, I mean, when it comes to the 11 Rudras, they are working as demigods only. But then the Shiva Tattva as such is not a demigod category. Shiva, right? It's a Tattva of its own. It's not a Jiva.
But Rudras are demigods.
Yes. So that's why when Vaishnava says Lord Shiva is a demigod, they're not wrong. But when they say that Sadashiva or the Shiva Tattva is a unique Tattva, this is what they mean. Yes, Sadashiva Jiva cannot take the position of Shiva, but Shiva can act as a demigod when he is Rudra.
Okay, this is the last one. Last one is, I missed that point in the story, that connection between, why Lord Brahma had Shiva come out of his forehead, in connection with the 4 Kumaras. Can you just briefly repeat that?
Yeah.
Part of the story?
So the third canto of the Bhagavatam talks about secondary creation, how Brahma begins to populate the universe. So Brahma had many sons. He had his mental sons, from his mind, which means the different sages, and then he asked them to populate the universe. And then he also created the 4 Kumaras so that the universe could be populated well. The 4 Kumaras said that we are not interested in this. We'd rather meditate on the Supreme Lord. And they just observed a life of brahmacharya, and they decided not to grow up at all and remain as 5-year-olds. Now, Brahma was very upset with this because his task was to get the universe populated, and his sons wouldn't listen to him. So therefore, he decided to create another son. And when the sons refused to carry out the task given by the father, he got really angry. So because he was angry at that time, he was generating different, the first creation that Brahma started doing before he created Manu and Shatarupa was that he created from his own body. He created living entities. So like that, in his anger, from the middle of his forehead, because of the anger, a baby came out, and that baby was crying, Rudra. So that's why he was crying anxiously. So he called that baby Rudra, and that's how Rudra appeared. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So there's a little confusion for me. When the 4 Kumaras said that they weren't interested, they just wanted to meditate on, I don't know, Brahman, or I don't know. They were in person, so I don't even know what they wanted to meditate on. But so when they declined the father's request, Lord Brahma, he got angry, right? And is it out of that anger that
that created this, it was, that's why he's called as Nila Lohita. He was bluish and reddish. He was imbued with the modes of ignorance and passion.
And he's called Rudra in that form.
Yes, that's right. You want me to open the third canto?
No, because I know it's so late already, and I've asked so many questions. But so I just so and okay, and the relationship between Shambhu and Rudra once again, the Rudra that came out of Lord Brahma's forehead.
The relationship between Shambhu and Rudra is that, we are just trying to understand Shiva Tattva at different levels. One level we saw was in the spiritual world, and then at the time of creation, Shambhu contacts Maya to kickstart creation, right? So then it is Shambhu. He's the dim halo of the glance of Mahavishnu. Is Shambhu. And then within each universe, the same Shiva, again he expands and he appears from the forehead of Brahma as Rudra, and then that Rudra expands into 11 other forms called as the Rudras.
Okay. So the Rudra that comes out of Lord Brahma's forehead, that's you can say that's like an expansion of Shambhu, I think.
Yeah, you can. Yes.
But the other 11 Rudras, they are demigod status. So there's actually 12 Rudras, but only 11 are demigods. Okay.
Within the universe, they are demigods. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Now I request Parima Mataji. You can go ahead and ask your question, Mataji.
Dandavat Pranamas Mataji for this amazing lecture, and I'm really thankful to you for having cleared many doubts. Just one last question is that are Agamas school of thoughts, or what exactly are they? I just couldn't follow what Agamas are.
Agamas are not school of thought. They are more like Pancharatras. They are a set of texts, like you have Pancharatra text, Agamas.
And how did they come into existence? Somebody wrote them?
Yeah, you can say somebody wrote them, but they are books of codes of worship, which are again, they should be derived from the, you can say, original Vedas and Puranas. I can tell you what Agamas are, but they are basically books, or they are not a school of thought. A school of thought is something that is derived from various texts. That is a school of thought, right? So this is not a school of thought. This is a canon of literature. Yes, did they write? Yes, most sages, they do write Agamas. That is right.
But it need not be in accordance to the Vedas, you mean to say?
Yes, it need not be. It need not be. At least the ones that generally, like Vaishnava Acharyas do say, a lot of Shaiva Agamas are speculative. They are not in accordance with the conclusion of the Vedas.
Okay. So I mean, so Agamas are just different literature. Okay, fine, Mataji. If you can give me the exact definition on the chat group, that will be, I would really appreciate if you can find out, Mataji.
Oh yeah, they are a collection of several tantric literature and scriptures from various schools. The term literally means a tradition or that which has come down, and Agama texts describe, meditation practices and mantras and deity worship and all that. So this is what an Agama is.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for a wonderful class, and please accept my humble obeisances. You are a wonderful class. Amazing. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I think so there are No other questions or any participants have raised their hands, Mataji. Mataji, I just have one question. Can I ask, Mataji? Do you have time?
Mataji.
Mataji, when you are talking about the pastimes of churning the milk ocean, right? So you are talking about the Mohini avatar. So it's very nice avatar and nice, you are saying, right? So at the same pastime we had in the Dashavatar, that Varaha avatar, right? Why not Mohini avatar is not there, Mataji, in that?
Yeah, so Mohini avatar was again, it was just for the sake of the demons, right? Even the demigods were not bewildered by it. It's not an incarnation that is, you can say in one sense, permanently worshipped or something. It was a custom-made thing to bewilder demons. So it's not considered as one of the primary 10 avatars that Vishnu has taken, or the Supreme Lord Krishna has taken for the sake of specific pastimes for the welfare of everyone. So you can take it like that. But again, as you know already, that the Bhagavatam has so many incarnations that are being discussed. It's not limited to 10. There are 25 at least in the very first canto, and then later in the 11th and 12th cantos, you will come across a few more. And Bhagavatam says that the number of incarnations are like the waves of the ocean, they are unlimited. So, like this, the Lord desires to take several incarnations. Only 10 have been consistently glorified by Jayadev Goswami in his in his Dashavatar Stotra, and then, of course, the Alvars of South India who have glorified the 10 incarnations. They have a slightly different list. But these are more recent and they are more celebrated for the sake of pastimes. They are Leela incarnations. They have performed certain Leelas that is celebrated. But again, the Mohini is a temporary one and it was custom made for elusive purposes. So it's not really worshipped or celebrated that way. You will not see deities of Mohini, right?
Yeah, that's what, I was having the same thing. Yeah, Mataji.
Actually, I remember once a devotee in Chopati asked this question to Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So why don't we have Mohini deities if we really want to attract more people? Because the asuras got attracted. But the idea is, Maharaj said that we do not want to exploit deities, right? The idea of deity worship is to get devotion and not develop an exploitative mood like the asuras. So, these are temporary forms.
Yeah, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Very well.
Yeah, if nobody have any other questions or realizations to Mataji, we can end the call here, Mataji. It's been so long time for you also, talking so much.
Wait, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, Kaumudiki Mataji, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Because I was waiting, and then
Yeah,
I don't know
Mataji.
again, so then I don't know any other way. So
Sorry,
thank you.
Mataji. You can go ahead.
Mataji. Very, very wonderful class. Now I know there are so many questions. Everybody has so many questions. Very nice answers also. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaumudiki Mataji. The class is never complete without your comments. Thank you so much.
So that's why I wanted to be at the end. It's very nice. Thank you. You should give more classes.
Thank you, Mataji.
You know, I was wondering about, somebody has said something about Chaitanya Charitamrita, that after, like we are in until Leela now, so after when we read the until Leela up to the Shikshastakam prayers, the last chapter, so then what are you going to do? I suggest to start all over again the Chaitanya Charitamrita from the Adi Leela.
Yes, Mataji.
Because we should just continue to do that. Like Srimad Bhagavatam also, when we finish, complete about 12 canto, and we should start from the first again.
Yeah, because it's been so long, right? That is also very good.
Yeah.
He started in 2011, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's been quite a long time. It's 2000. No, it's
because there
are
not so many. Just once a week.
10 years.
Once a day.
2000. When was it, Mataji? Mataji?
I think it's 2013, 14 we started,
13.
not 2011.
Okay.
Because I remember 2011, in mid-morning we were doing Bhagavad Gita, because we did Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of then Ishopanishad.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, thank you, Kamadiki Mataji. We'll definitely consider your request.
Yes, it's very, very nice. Because we are doing all this kirtan and all this, all the pastimes are there in Lord Chaitanya's. Very, we can easily kind of relate to and get so much mercy from Nitai Gauranga and Panchatattva.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Very nice suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Very well.
Thank you so much, Kamadiki Mataji.
Radharani Mataji, before you end up the class, I just want to glorify your service, that how wonderfully and professionally you handled it so nicely, and you moderated the class so wonderfully. And really hats off to your service, Mataji. Thank you so much for being on the call and taking it so wonderfully. Yes, now you can end up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mataji. No, Mataji. Yeah, thank you so much, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, for such a wonderful and nectarian class. Once again, I'm saying so, and enlightening us. And we are so grateful to you, Mataji. We look forward for your association in future. Maybe if it is daily also, we are so happy. So let's yeah.
Well, she doesn't need to read or study. She can just give a class and doesn't.
Yeah, that's what Mataji.
No, Mataji, and I'm not so
from all our from the devotees in the call, we'll pay our obeisances to Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granted. Let all glories to Lord Shiva and Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Har Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for the beautiful.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anand Koti